Hi guys, how are you? This is Ishai Breslauer, your host of the CRE Shark Eye Show. I hope you guys are doing fantastic today. And today I would like to talk to you a little bit about the post-pandemic side effects and everything that is happening today. Just a quick update. On Monday, you guys don't want to miss it. On Monday, we're going to speak about the markets. We're going to talk about the markets. We're going to talk about everything that is going on inside the markets and what the post-pandemic basically did the market. We have to do that every once in a while. We have to go over the numbers. We have to go over the details. We have to go over the data. We're going to do this coming Monday. So stay tuned. I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring some data. I'm going to bring some numbers. And that's what we're going to talk about. Again, this coming Monday, next week, early next week, I think it's the 7th. June 7th, I believe it is. And you guys be there or be squared. Don't miss this. You want to be there. You want to hear about it. Let's talk a little bit about what happened to the world. We know what happened. We know what happened to the pandemic. We know how it all went down. We know this. We've been through this. It's not, how do you say, it's not a secret. But now we're coming out of it. So now what? And the side effects are tremendous. Why? Because when we got in, just a little bit of an overview about what I want to talk about. When we got into this pandemic, what happened was everybody was afraid. Ray Dalio was concerned about that aspect. And a lot of people spoke about the fact that it reminded them the Great Depression. And I had a whole show about this. You want to go back and listen to it at the time. I spoke about this. And I have a whole video, by the way, and a whole YouTube thing about the Great Depression, going over step by step what happened. But when this came out, when this happened, everybody was speaking about, is this the second Great Depression? Is this what we've seen in 1929? That was the big question. And the answer is no, that did not happen. Maybe it will, maybe something bigger. A lot of people, you have the doomsday guys. And also you have people who predict economics and predict the markets. And it could be that it will happen. Without a doubt. However, it did not happen this time. Why? What is the difference and how it leads me to what I want to talk about? So the major difference is that in 1929, the government did not believe the whole economy will collapse, meaning the fact that the stock market collapsed in 1929. The fact that that happened did not, meaning a lot of people came out to the media at that time and came and said, okay, we have a recession or we have a collapse, we have a situation, we have a crisis, but it will be okay. And we'll come out of this because they believe that the market, just like it went down, it will come up. Just like that. That's what they thought. But what happened was, that Hoover, the president at that time, thought that it will come back because of all the things and the noise that he heard around it and all the optimism that he actually spread around before his election at that time. So everybody came out and said, something, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. But it was not okay. Meaning the government did not intervene and the banks collapsed. And the second the system collapsed and you had hyperinflation and you had all these things that happened, it went down like crazy. And it ended up that within months from that collapse, when the stock market, dropped whatever it was, I can remember it was 60%, 70%, whatever it was then. When the stock market collapsed, nobody believed it, but within few months, the country was already at a depression. Depression means that the banks are not there, people losing their homes, people losing not only their jobs, but there's no hope and there's no jobs and people going out to the street to get bread. That is a depression, okay? That was not the case in 2008, even though 2008 was horrific. It was a great recession. But you didn't have the same things you had in 1929, people trying to make a buck out of crazy things, the Hoovervilles, all those little, tin cans neighborhoods that came out. That's a depression. And everybody thought it's going to be a depression this time also, and it did not, because the government intervened. Trump at the time, love him or hate him, came out with a stimulus package, and the stimulus package saved America, okay? It saved the economy in a way that people could still breathe. Yes, a lot of people lost their businesses, a lot of restaurants closed, a lot of hotels collapsed. We spoke about this, and there are a lot of bad things that happened to people, okay? And a lot of people suffered. Many people died. A lot of people suffered. Many families suffered, whether it's losses or loss of money and loss of business, and many, many things happened. Many things happened. But the majority of the American people and the world at large, not every country, but many countries, enjoyed stimulus packages following what America did. And what happened was that a lot of people got checks. And when people get checks, you have two sectors that are going to get those checks, meaning everybody got those checks. It went to everyone without exceptions. But here's the thing. You have those people, you have those guys who need every penny. Families, whether they are poor, people who lost their jobs and they can't pay rent, or even people who did very well but lost their businesses or lost their mega jobs and need every penny. They need to pay anything. They needed to cut costs in a major way. They needed the money, and the stimulus package really helped them a lot. In some cases, it was not even enough. However, you had those youngsters, you had those kids who are not living at home anymore, They're on their own. They have those, side jobs. They work at McDonald's, they work in a restaurant, they wait tables, they do this, they do that, et cetera, et cetera. And they live on their own. And all of a sudden what happened was they got fired because the economy shut down. That's what happened. They got fired. They're on their own and they didn't have any money, but they still have enough to live off it. Why? Because maybe their parents helped them. Maybe something happened. I don't know what. They had some side money. Some people did not have. I'm not saying that everybody had that. But yet a big chunk of the population that did have money on this, that they have side money that they saved or they put it for a rainy day, that did not need that money, or they were well off. Some people are doing well, thank God, or their business did not collapse. But I'm talking about those youngsters. Why am I talking about those youngsters? Because they took that money and they say, okay, I got free money. And it's many times it has been discussed in the media several times. I have money now that is more than what I made. It was above the minimum wage. And therefore, those people said, you know what? I don't have to go back to work. Once everything opened, they did not have to go back to work. They said, okay, I don't need to go back to work. I'm fine where I am. I'm okay with what I have. And that is the disaster. When someone says, I'm okay with what I have and doesn't push himself or herself, that's okay. And that caused for young people to go to the beach and go and have a lot of fun and invest with their money and cause a GameStop issue. We all know about that. But you have all these kids and people who don't have kids and don't need the money or don't need the money right now. They're not desperate. And they went and played with that money. They say, I got free money. I don't need any money now, but I got free money. Let's play with it. And it's more than what I would be making beforehand. Let's play. Let's have fun. They did not push themselves. They did not go back to work. They did not find themselves or reinvent themselves, they were not required to do that. Sometimes you need to be pushed to the corner in order to say to yourself that you need to reinvent yourself, that you need to what we call pivot. We spoke about this word millions of times. Everybody's talking about the word pivot, pivot, pivot. But they didn't. They didn't have to. When you don't have to do something, sometimes you just don't do it. And it depends on the personality. But many people find their greatness when they're pushed to the corner. Many people find their, thing, their beautiful gift that God gave them when they're pushed to the corner. And it may not come immediately. The results may not come right away. It may come maybe months or years later. But sometimes they're pushed to the corner. They create something that later on becomes something great. But these kids, especially, I'm saying especially kids, because we're talking about that age group of people, young, and it's not even young millennials. I think it's Gen Z and young millennials. It's like those two, those guys who don't have kids, don't have families, don't live at home, have money, no problems, and didn't push themselves, and no desire to go back to work because, again, the minimum wage was minimum wage and they got more. So they went and invested and went and had fun and spent. Now you have a side effect. You have parents who saw the monster creeping on them, and they saw their kids who they educated, who they raised to be hardworking people, to be honest, decent people. And I'm not saying they're not honest, decent, but maybe they're honest, but not decent. And those kids are going to the beach instead of going to find jobs and saying, I have money, I don't need to do anything, bumming around, sleeping late, going to bed late, partying, doing all kind of crazy stuff. That's the new culture, guys. This is the mega side effect of the pandemic. This is the mega side effect. So what are we going to do with that? So first of all, what is the solution to that problem? Is first of all to make a distinction, a very clear cut between those who need and those who don't need. Those who need it like air. Those who need it need every penny, need even more now. Why? Because the banks are creeping on them. They need to pay rent. And yes, the banks are coming back roaring now, right? Mortgages are going to be back. Payments are going to be back. We're going to talk about it on Monday in details. What's happening exactly to the market in terms of landlords from the commercial real estate aspect that people have to, those landlords actually need to now all of a sudden assume payments while their tenants maybe are not paying. What are we going to do with that? Whether they are in retail, whether they are in multifamily, we'll talk about that on Monday. But right now I'm talking about the vast economy that had been created because of this stimulus package, which was great again, but at a certain point, there's a point that, there has to be some process to it. There has to be a thought through thing that with a very simple, non-bureaucratic thing, the government should know what is a family with kids and what is a youngster without any kids and their economical status, give and take. And to tell them you're going to get $100 per month and the family is not going to get maybe $600 or $1,200 or $3,000. Maybe they need even more. But those kids don't need even 100 maybe. Maybe they don't need anything. They just need a kick in the butt, as we call it, to get them back to work because they can. And all they want to do is maybe wait tables, which is great, or do some other thing. But doing nothing, it destroys restaurants. Now we have restaurants who are complaining. It's worldwide, by the way. Owners of restaurants that are now back and have people finally. You have owners waiting tables themselves because no kids want to come back to work because they're getting money, because of that free money that they got, and they're not interested in going back to do anything anymore. Okay, so therefore it's time that everybody will go back to work. And this pandemic, in some places, of course, it's it's getting back to work and people are back, but I'm saying that what it caused it brought us into a culture. It brought us the culture of kids, young adults, Gen Z, and young millennials without kids, without families, saying, I don't need to do anything. I'm getting free money. Think about what the side effects are. A person wakes up in the morning and says, I don't have to do anything and I'm getting everything. That is catastrophic, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's catastrophic. You don't have people who are saying, I need to push myself. I heard Tony Robbins, say once, how come I have, someone told him, I can't remember who it was, maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger, I can't remember. He said, how come I have great muscles? Because every day I push into something that has resistance that I cannot do, and I have to do it really hard. And every day I put it up a notch a little bit more so I can make a larger effort, and therefore my muscles grow. Muscles don't grow, whether it's in the brain, whether it's in the willpower, whether it's your ability to growth. You can't grow if you don't have anything that is in front of you, that is a resistance, that causes a resistance for you to push against, and that way you're going to grow. So those kids, those young people, they don't have that. They don't have anything that pushes them. They don't have anything that, there's no resistance to come and make them grow and make them be something more than they actually are. So what's going to happen? So we created this culture, and now, unless the education, the curve, something's going to happen. Something has to happen. There has to be something within the government, just like they created the stimulus. They should create a lot of things, benefits for people who go back and get in action. You educated them to sit back and do nothing. Educate them to go back and do stuff. You told them, sit down, I'll give you money. You tell them, you get up, move yourself, get into action, and then you'll get even more. That type of a thing is blessed. Why? We understand that there was a pandemic. We understand that people needed the money. We understand that the government had to give the money in order for us not to get into the Great Depression #2. However, it's over. Now it's time to go and encourage people to go back to work, to get back to work, to get back in action. You can't go and say, hey, still be a bum, stay where you are, don't do anything. What is that going to bring? What kind of kids we're going to have? What kind of future we're going to have? What kind of families they're going to have? That's terrible. What kind of jobs? What kind of an economy are we creating? Is there anything positive about this? No, there's not. There's nothing positive about this. So, right, we had an election in the middle and we have a new president, and he came out with more stimulus, and that stimulus, of course, was planned prior to that, and there's nothing to do with whether you are a Republican or a Democrat. Doesn't matter. It was supposed to happen. It did happen with the Democrat Party. Okay, great. But now it's time, and it's going to be very hard to see it happen because I don't know if the Biden administration will be able to do that. I hope they will. I hope they will. I hope they will. The young generation need to be re-educated. They need to be re-educated about what's important, what's not important, how they have to do things. Otherwise, where are we going with this? It's crazy. You know what? I'm happy that people started investing. I'm happy that people started, but I don't know if that's investing. I don't know if that's, if they educated themselves, then something good came out of this. They actually went and, and courses about investing, whether it's stocks, real estate, Bitcoin, whatever, it doesn't matter. And they studied, and they actually, so they invested in themselves. That's great. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about those who went to the beach and those who gambled. I think the point is clear. So I hope this generation, this young generation, is going to actually wake up and smell the coffee because life must go on. With that, I'm going to wish you guys a beautiful weekend. Again, Monday, guys. I want to remind you on Monday. Monday, we're going to talk about the markets. We're going to dissect the markets. We're going to go over the numbers. We're going to go over some things that are going on. I'm going to give you some summaries of what's going on in the U.S. market, in the U.S. commercial real estate market, and we're going to go over this. So don't miss that. I'll see you guys on Monday. Take care of yourself. Have a beautiful week.